Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me this week are Jeff Reinke and Nolan Beilstein. We're the editors of Manufacturing.net and Industrial Equipment News, and we have several years, some of us way too many, covering the manufacturing industry. Every week we take the 5 biggest stories on our websites and discuss the implications they have on the industry moving forward. Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on Apple Podcast or whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Nolan at in.com with email the podcast in the subject line. We're also live every Thursday, so subscribe to us on YouTube at IN Magazine so you can get a notification whenever we go live. Jeff, a notification, we should be able to send like a reverse notification that says like, oh, oopsie, sorry, we're going to miss 2 weeks.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
That would be a good idea.
If only we had the mechanism to do such a thing.
Like some sort of communication outlet where we could inform them. Oh, I guess
electronically maybe.
Yeah.
Like a sort of like mailbox.
Yeah, like a mailbox, some sort of like newspaper, but only for email.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How could we do that?
We'll figure it out.
Have a meeting. Let's call a meeting.
We'll fix it. Nolan, how you doing this week? It's we're glad that you could join us this week.
Yes, once again, back. I thought this had been a fresh panel every time I do this, but I'm pretty sure I've been with this panel before.
Okay.
Oh, you have?
Oh,
jeez.
Yeah.
I think Jeff said he was going to come after me last time. It was the 3 of us.
Oh, okay. I mean, well, that's probably the same.
Yeah.
Still.
All right. Wouldn't want it any other way.
Well, before we jump into a word from our sponsor, I just wanted to apologize because that was definitely, the miscommunication was definitely on me. We had producer Eric was going on vacation. We had a couple of ways that we thought we would be able to put out an episode or two while he was out of the country, and it turned out that those didn't work out. So I apologize for not sending any updates and kind of just sitting on the news and hoping you guys would all still be here with us on the other side. So once this goes live, we'll see. Hopefully you're still there.
So it's really Eric's family's fault.
Yeah.
For making him go out of the country.
It's really
how dare you get cultured?
Like, Eric is the anchor of his family, and without him, all things fall apart, both in work and family. Eric's mom, he loves you. All right. Well, before we get into our first story this week, we have a word from our sponsor, Redzone. This week's episode is brought to you by Redzone. Watching employees walk away shortly after spending ample resources training them is incredibly frustrating. And while harder to spot, unengaged or unproductive employees also negatively impact the return on labor investment. A new webinar from Redzone features experts who discuss the roots of high turnover in manufacturing, how successful leaders support growth from employees, and methods for improving operational visibility. So, watch the webinar, How Coil Specialist Tackled Employee Reliability by, quote, leading well. You can download that right now. There is a link in the live chat as well as in the body copy. All right. Our first story this week. Manufacturing CEO convicted in international bribery money laundering scheme. About 2 weeks ago, a federal jury in Miami, Florida, convicted 70-year-old Carl Zaglin. I think it's Zaglin, maybe Zaglin. Carl, anyways, got convicted for his role in a bribery and money laundering scheme. Zaglin is the owner and CEO of Atlanco LLC, a Georgia-based law enforcement uniform manufacturer. He bribed Honduran officials to secure contracts worth more than $10 million to make uniforms for the Honduran National Police and other Honduran security agencies. Between March 2015 and November 2019, Zaglin orchestrated the payment of hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes to multiple officials. They were paid through Aldo Nestor Marchena, a third-party intermediary who lived in Boca Raton, Florida. He received $2.5 million in payments for sham invoices authorized by Zaglin. To conceal the scheme, the co-conspirators used coded and oblique language like commissions and fees. But those were bribes. They also created sham, quote, brokerage agreements to disguise the payments as legitimate services and relied on personal email accounts and encrypted messaging applications for communication. They laundered the bribes by moving funds from Atlanco to Marchena's front company that was in the United States, and then on to accounts held in the names of Honduran officials that were in the United States, Belize, and elsewhere. Zaglin faces many years in prison. Jeff, as long as we have any form of currency, we'll have bribery, right?
Yeah, and I think there's this, I think when you look at this story sort of on the surface, I think there could be a lot of people saying, well, yeah, isn't this kind of the way this works in a lot of situations? Doesn't make it right, but it can't really be all that surprising. I think what is shocking to me here is the lengths that they went to launder the money, especially because part of his defense was actually that these were gratuities given for services performed. It's just a thank you.
Yeah.
Just really appreciate you allowing me to sell you this, even though you're a government official who is not allowed to take gratuities.
Yeah, it's a gift.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but when you look at it a little bit more closely, I think, first of all, and actually a big part of the prison sentence is actually because of the laundering activities, not even the bribes. That's kind of the crazy part of this too. And it feels like he overcomplicated that in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But anyway, setting the stage a little bit, this is an interesting company. It's actually been around since 1950. It was started by this guy's dad. He passed it on. They moved production to Honduras. So there is 900 people working at this factory in Honduras. So having those connections, you think they could have been just smarter, in terms of how they were doing this. But what really caught me in terms of how happy I was that this was uncovered by Homeland Security is, at least in 2023 when this first broke, it was alleged that about $480,000 of this $10 million contract was for tear gas launchers and ammunition.
Oh.
So we're not just talking about uniforms anymore. We're talking about some pretty serious stuff and where that could lead. So the fact that, the kibosh was sort of put on that right away, that's very reassuring to me.
Yeah.
The other thing I think was interesting about this is, although this came about in 2023, the trial was actually supposed to start on April 7th. This is according to the Stanford Law Review. It was supposed to start on April 7th. It was continued to April 20th, and then on March 24th, the trial was again delayed until August 11th because of President Trump wrote an executive order pausing the enforcement of all these Foreign Corruption and Practices Act.
Oh, okay.
He wanted to reevaluate that. So this actually took longer to happen.
Okay.
That's one thing. You can kind of appreciate maybe there was some due diligence, maybe some things that were being overly prosecuted. But the other part of this then is when Zaglin then came back, he filed to dismiss the indictment, number one, for saying that these were gratuities, not bribes. But then he also said that the alleged conduct felt was the sort of overexpansive and abusive enforcement of the FCPA condemned by President Trump in his February 10th executive order. So it also sort of like gave this guy another loophole to try to argue, which is frustrating. We see all these executive orders coming about, and they can be offered maybe with the best intentions, but in this case, it also gave a criminal who admitted to doing all of these things, and there's a clear paper track from Homeland Security in terms of how much he laundered and everything else. Don't give him an out.
Yeah. Just like, whoa, maybe what I did wasn't so much of a crime anymore.
Right.
And, hey.
Even though you admitted to, a crime. Yeah.
No, it was, I don't know, the entire scheme was very surprising to me and shocking in terms of how kind of blatant they were with everything. Do you think that is only glaring in hindsight? Do you think when they were creating all these ways to hide the money that they think they were truly being elusive?
Yeah. My first question was because I was looking at some of the defenses, Jeff mentioned one of them. When he's plotting this, was he thinking, yeah, I know this is illegal, but I've got the perfect way to get out of it? Mm-hmm. And then, some of those defenses were, he said it technically was gratuities because the payments took place, was it? Yeah, they're saying it had happened before the contracts were signed.
Yeah.
And then bribery means it's all the way around. Bribery is influencing to do it, but he said, well, it was the other way around, so we're fine. It's not bribery, so you got to dismiss this. And then the other one was that he was heeding the advice of counsel. Yeah. In good faith, the lawyer told him to do this.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was just following the instructions of my lawyer.
Exactly.
No, that's like, what's his name? Senator Bob Menendez saying, no, these gold bars were just gifts. I don't know. one of the things I struggle with stories like this is that, whenever there's some way to make a profit, people are always going to try and cheat the system. And I do think that when they're kind of scheming, they're like, no, I've got the perfect way around this. These aren't bribes. These are gifts. And no. Even though we're completely fine, everything's completely above the board. Let's just, we're not going to say gift in our software. We're going to just, we'll have codes just in case.
We usually talk about with these stories how many are not getting caught. I feel like that theme keeps coming up because usually in these there's something where they did something really reckless or stupid to get caught. Yeah. This seemed kind of like your regular traditional scam. Yeah,
I mean that is a really good point. Like a lot of times people, they get greedy, right? There's never enough money, and they always think that they're the smartest person in the room, and they eventually leads to them getting caught. Actually, what was it? What was it that tripped these guys up? Did they?
I looked and I couldn't find. I think it might have just been.
Okay.
Regulation check through, something didn't look right, and they looked into it. It wasn't
some sort of whistleblower.
Spent money on a Portuguese lake house or.
Well, I think Homeland was the one that uncovered it. And I think it was just the simple fact that it was going through an intermediary before it actually got to the Honduran officials, and they're going, "Hey, why?"
Oh, gotcha. That they were routing everything through that U.S. based.
Yeah. Why is this going here when the sale is to I forget the name of the group in Honduras there. So.
Oh, gotcha. Like, I mean, that's interesting. Like, they actually got caught because of one of the additional layers they put into kind of
feels like it. I'm with Nolan. I couldn't find something precisely that was sort of the vibe I got on what tipped Homeland off.
Yeah.
So
they weren't talking to an undercover agent that sometimes we see that one. I enjoy that.
Yeah. Just I always envisioned them for some reason, like the old school selling DVDs out of the trunk of the car and just like, hey, you guys want to buy a movie? Only this would be like selling law enforcement official security uniforms.
Speaking of.
Yeah, our next story this week, a former employee at DVD maker gets nearly 5 years for stealing Blockbuster movies. A former employee of a multinational DVD and Blu-ray manufacturer and distributor was recently sentenced to 57 months in prison, nearly 5 years, for stealing DVDs and Blu-rays of, quote, Blockbuster movies, and then selling them before their release dates. According to the Justice Department, 38-year-old Stephen R. Hale of Memphis, Tennessee, worked for an unnamed DVD manufacturer. From February 2021 to March 2022, Hale stole more than 1,000 discs that were being prepped for commercial distribution in the United States. Some of the movies included Dune, F9, part of the Fast saga, and Venom, Let There Be Carnage, arguably the worst of that Venom trilogy. Perhaps the most significant loss happened when Hale ripped a copy of Spider-Man No Way Home and then made it available as an illegal download for more than a month before the Blu-ray's official release date. The movie was downloaded tens of millions of times. And while the DOJ release said Hale created an estimated loss of tens of millions of dollars to the copyright owner, the court document from the plea deal says, quote, the infringement amount is more than $15,000 and not more than $40,000, so a bit of a discrepancy there. However, Hale pleaded guilty in May 2025 to criminal copyright infringement and agreed to make full restitution to his victims, which oddly included returning nearly 1,200 stolen DVDs and Blu-rays. Hale also pleaded guilty for unlawful possession of a pistol. He had prior felony convictions for armed robbery and attempted robbery. Jeff, is there any movie you would do 5 years for?
No. No, and it's interesting because we talk in a lot of instances. We got another story coming up here we're going to be discussing where technology just opens you up to a lot more risk. Yeah, and a lot more different things that can happen. Stealing the DVDs was bad enough, and if you figure he was selling them for whatever, $5 to $15, he is probably in that $15,000 to $40,000 range, and that's a nice little extra, income coming in, not too shabby, and it's under the radar, if you will.
Yeah.
I think once he started putting the digital download out there, that had to be what caught him. That had to be what got him exposed.
Yeah.
And they're seeing, where did this come from? And probably backtracking it a little bit. Not too difficult, I wouldn't think. Yeah. If you start squeezing some online download, website. Where did
Yeah.
you get this from? They're
Oh,
going to
yeah.
roll pretty fast. So if this guy, again, to your point before, if they wouldn't be so greedy,
Yeah.
he probably could have got away with this for longer even.
Yeah.
Thankfully he was, and he
Yeah.
got caught, and he deserved it.
No, it was kind of surprising. The restitution I found odd because I think it would be difficult to like move those 1,200 DVDs like on Marketplace now. Just like it would almost be like, hey, free if you come and get them yourself. But it is also, I know that the administration is putting a focus on copyright infringement cases and illegal streamers. And it is you rarely hear these stories of somebody actually getting caught just because it seems like, one goes down, two more pop up. But they were able to trace it to a manufacturer, and it just kind of proves that if you are a manufacturer of items that are tied to any sort of media or other things that are protected, you need to kind of make sure they're staying in-house. You got to have the security protocols in place. Nolan, is there any movie that you would do 5 years for to make sure everybody saw it?
And how much money am I getting that I don't have to give up, presumably, before I go to prison?
I don't know. You get like, they'll pay you in Bitcoin, so I'm not really sure the transaction.
So when I get out, no. The answer is no. I don't think so.
No, there's no amount of money. Like, I mean, I agree with you. It's just like there could be a financial windfall. I still don't want to twiddle my thumbs for 5 years.
No, I'm good on that.
So when you look at this case, do you see it more as a security angle, just in terms of like, hey, it doesn't matter what you're making. You got to make sure that, what you're making stays in-house and isn't kind of, what did they call that? They used to call it drift or leakage. I can't remember what the exact term was when employees steal. I'll think of it though. But
I like leakage. We can go with that.
Is it leakage?
Spoilage?
Come on, spoilage? No, that's.
Yeah. Now what is it? You're right. What is that? I'm trying to think.
Anyway,
I was gonna say while you look that up, I can.
Yeah.
your question. Because DVDs aren't as prevalent as they used to be, so it kind of made me think that even seemingly low-tech manufacturing operations still need that competent supply chain security and inventory control. And, my old man boomer take that I own up is that movies have gotten worse.
Yeah.
And I think that's largely because they used to rely on DVDs a lot to make money.
Oh, yeah.
And now streaming's taken over, so DVDs aren't that big of a thing. And that makes them rely on an algorithm that tells them what people are going to go see, so they don't take any more risks, and we just get the same recycled content every time. So screw Steve, man.
Steve's part of the problem.
He's ruining my industry.
No, I mean, okay, and thank you for allotting me the appropriate amount of time. It's actually shrinkage is what it's the loss of inventory term. But I mean, you're right. Like, do they even have movies that people would want to steal right now, other than like the tent poles? For me, that was he kind of joke about it, but when you see the list of movies that he went down for, just like he's gonna have a cellmate at one point, and they're gonna be like, "Hey, why are you in here?" And he's gonna be like, "Cause I stole F9
or whatever." Yeah.
And Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and then he's got to like have the roommate or cellmate just be like, "Oh man,
yeah." What movies on there would you have to be like? Yeah, okay, I see it.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
I mean,
Dune was on there. I thought Dune was great. You were not a fan.
No, Dune was fine, and actually, Spider-Man: No Way Home, like, yeah,
fantastic.
But I mean, yeah, maybe that's the way to kind of skirt it. Like, don't take the one that is likely to make the most amount of money with digital rights. Maybe you're fine under the radar with Velocipaster. All right. Our next most popular story this week. It's do or die time for EV maker Rivian. While it seems like a tough climate to be an EV maker in the U.S., Rivian remains confident. The company just started long-delayed work on a $5 billion facility in Georgia, according to the Associated Press. Rivian Chief Policy Officer Alan Hoffman said the company will sell EVs not for environmental or tax incentive reasons, but because they're superior. But the Georgia plant is critical to Rivian reaching profitability. The company currently makes the high-end R1T pickup truck and the R1S sport utility vehicle in Normal, Illinois, as well as delivery vans for Amazon. Its trucks start out at $71,000. The Illinois plant will begin making smaller R2 SUVs next year The prices are going to drop for those to about $45,000. But if the R2 is a hit, and if Rivian successfully produces an even smaller R3, it's going to need more room to make trucks. The company said that Georgia operation will be able to make 200,000 vehicles yearly starting in just 3 years. And it plans to add another 200,000 in capacity in the following phase, or phase 2. The projections would be a big leap from the 40,000 to 46,000 vehicles Rivian expects to deliver this year, which is already down from 52,000 last year. The company also said it's limiting production now in part to the 2026 models, so already scaling back next year's predictions. Alex Euler, North American director of auto research firm SBD Automotive, he says it's, quote, do or die time. We saw with Tesla that the key to profitability is scale, and you can't scale if your cheapest vehicle is $70,000. So they need that plant online to achieve a level of scale of R2 and ultimately R3. Jeff, will it be do or die for Rivian?
Let's pump the brakes here. Okay. I think, and it's the job of all these analysts and forecasters to look at this and get very dramatic about it. Now, the reality is Rivian's had some issues. We know this from a production perspective. They've had to slow things down in Georgia for that big facility. They've had some safety issues that have come out of their Illinois plant. Yeah. All of these things are pretty normal growing pains, however, for a startup, especially when you're talking about building a car, or a truck, which we've talked about is kind of hard. Yeah. Like, it's more difficult than people ever want to appreciate. Now, the other part of this, when they look at the sales numbers and how they want to scale up, just be smart here. Be careful, because while scaling up is important for profitability, so is actually being able to sell enough vehicles to keep the lights on. Yeah. So I think what's important here, and this is easy for me to say because I'm not the one who has to go on a call and explain why 3 years ago the stock was at $120 and now it's at 16. Yeah. What's going on? Let's get more vehicles out there. But what you don't want to have is scaling up so fast that you've got 100,000 shelled vehicles in your parking lot that you can't sell. Yeah. So let's be smart here. And let's be patient and listen to the consumer. Listen to the marketplace. We know electric vehicles are the way of the future. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. Yeah. It's going to be the way of the future. There's going to, at some point, there will be more electric vehicles than traditional, whether it's a hybrid, electric, whatever, than gas-powered vehicles. It's going to happen. Yeah. When? We're not sure. It's going to happen much more slowly than initially anticipated, but it's still going to happen. Now, the other thing that Rivian wants to keep focused on are the production qualities of the vehicle that they put on the road. Yeah. We haven't heard any big issues so far when it comes to Rivian. They've had production issues and safety issues, nothing on the road yet. Mm-hmm. Keep it that way. Because with the scale, like Tesla scaling up, they're also averaging 15 to 20 recalls a year. Yeah. You don't need that when you're trying to sell more vehicles. And Tesla's starting to feel that, which is one of the reasons, in my opinion, they're starting to lose market share. Yes, the Fords, the GMs, the Volkswagen, everybody else is coming out with their stuff. But it's also because of some of those concerns. So get the infrastructure in place, get your numbers right, and try to be patient. Mm-hmm. You'll make it up to the stockholders. Again, easier for me to say than for Rivian to deal with, but I think that is the way forward. So is it do or die? Well, only if the stockholders become so animated that they leave no other options. Yeah, and just make sure to not become, a highly polarized there's that
figure.
Too.
So just, RJ, stay in the office. Yeah. What do you think about Rivian trying to sell on being a superior driving experience in automobile versus, because I think it's a pretty decent move because so many people talk about it just makes good financial sense with all the incentives to buy one right now. And then they kind of learn of it being a better vehicle. Whereas now it's just like, hey, listen, the incentives aren't there, but overall, this is a better option for you. Do you think that'll fly?
I think that is a way to go. I don't think and it's not like they're talking about a 6-figure truck here. It's a $70,000 truck. Now that's expensive. I'm not saying it's not, but it's not so far out of the ballpark that people are going to go, oh, hell no, I can't do that. Yeah. Same thing with these SUVs, especially if it's a smaller SUV and you're in that $70,000, but it's more of a luxury type of vehicle, or you are some of those early adopters who want that EV and that new thing. I see more Rivians on the road every day, all the time.
Yeah.
Like, and I know it's anecdotal because if you see one and then you see five, that feels like a lot. Yeah. But I don't think this could backfire on them. Again, it's just pace yourself according to the consumer, not the stockholder.
Well, and I mean, compared to an F-150 Lightning, $70,000, still very competitive.
Yeah.
$45,000 for a smaller option, still very competitive. So it's just a matter of getting them on the road. Nolan, what do you think about Rivian? Are they reaching this sort of do or die time, or to Jeff's point, or is it more like of an idol?
Do or die seems a little extreme, no?
Yeah. Well, I don't know, because like we talk about, it does seem extreme with Rivian, but I will say that when it comes to the EV market, it seems like things are going really well for any company, and then all of a sudden they fall off a cliff. So I understand, like, being hyperbolic about it. But I always go back, when it comes to Rivian with me, I always go back to, like, as long as they have that Amazon deal, they're going to be fine.
Well, they just got a bunch of cash from Volkswagen as well for tech development and sharing. So the coffers are not bare.
Yeah.
Now, David, that sounded like an incentive that drove you to Rivian, and they just said they didn't need those because they're just that much better.
Wait, which incentive drove you?
You said the Amazon deal.
Oh, no.
That sounds like it. I know it's not a government incentive, but they just said they didn't need incentives and they can just rely on superiority.
Oh, I mean, no, they can rely on superiority with the consumer market, but they could still use that good money from Amazon to keep the lights on. Like, and I mean, that's just, it's realistic. I mean, we always like to talk about like how it's difficult when it comes to the government picking a winner, but when it is another private company, picking a winner, I tend to trust their judgment a little bit better. One thing that I saw as a good sign was, so we also ran the news of OP Mobility this week. They're going to establish their first Illinois facility in Normal to assemble bumpers for Rivian's R2, which is going to be available, like we said, for consumers sometime next year, most likely, probably, it should. OP Mobility is going to be the first company to locate in Rivian's new supplier park. That was announced in May of this year. The company plans to make a significant capital investment and expects to create 81 full-time jobs. So this was another piece of the puzzle for me, Nolan, where they were just like, okay, they had talked about building the supplier park, and it's kind of the if you build it, they will come mentality. And at least one came so far. So, hey, we at least got bumpers in the neighborhood, right? I mean, that was a good, I mean, that's not just buy-in from the state and the company, but that's buy-in from a supplier that's, on board. So I thought, I don't know, that was a positive development, let's call it.
Okay. My question was just, is that when you're trying to scale, is the superiority overall a realistic approach when you don't have that reputation to fall back on? Oh,
well, I mean, we've seen that in so many, the earliest one for me is like VHS Betamax, right? We were talking about Blu-ray and it was HD DVDs. Like, I mean, the superior product doesn't necessarily win out, right? But if you compare having what they determine to be a superior product with also kind of some big names helping you fill the coffers, I think that you might have a recipe for success to reach that scale. But no, I mean, the superior product doesn't always win. No,
it's very true. Very true.
All right. Our next most popular story. Tesla faces lawsuit after factory worker knocked out by robot. Tesla is facing a lawsuit after a factory technician in California was knocked unconscious by an assembly line robot. According to The Independent, a 50-year-old employee is seeking $51 million from the automaker after being struck, quote, without warning by the bot. Peter Hinterdobler was helping move a Model 3 production robot. When he tried to remove the robot's motor, quote, the robot's arm suddenly released with the force of approximately 8,000 pound counterbalance weight. Nailed it.
I mean, I just assume that that's a
Perfect.
lot.
Yeah.
You don't have to say it exactly right.
Well,
I
it was,
get it.
it's a long quote, like clipped up with ellipses, and I'm just, well, I struggled. You know what? Real saw it.
It hurt. It hurt.
Real heard it. The worker was thrown to the ground, and he lost consciousness. The injuries have so far cost about $1 million in medical expenses, and he expects to pay another $6 million. He wants $20 million for pain and suffering, $10 million for emotional distress, $9 million for loss of earning capacity, and $5 million for total loss of, quote, household service. Robotics manufacturer Fanuc is also named as a defendant in the lawsuit. And this is not the first time one of Tesla's production robots has been accused of causing bodily harm to a human employee. In 2023, a report surfaced about a robot at a Tesla Gigafactory in Texas pinning an employee against a surface and, quote, pushing its claws into his body. Jeff, do you see this more as a frivolous lawsuit, or do you think it has merit?
I think it has a ton of merit. I think the dollar amounts are ridiculous.
Yeah.
When you see this broken down, I mean, come on, man. No offense. You're working at an automotive plant and you're talking about $9 million for a loss of earning capacity.
What if you can't work ever again?
$9 million.
I don't know. I think that if a robot broke your back, like
It does not add up to $51 million.
I mean, I guess I understand that, but I mean, we're talking about a person that could be permanently disfigured.
That was not, I guess, the report that I picked up.
No, you're right. Like, I mean, I guess it sounded bad. So I don't.
I have total sympathy for the individual who is hurt. I'm just, when you see some of this is a lot of lawyer speak, and I understand they start high and negotiate down, all of the things.
Yeah.
That was just a little disruptive in my brain. Getting back to the core element of the story, I think what we really see here is whenever we talk about these safety stories, it's a cultural thing. Mm-hmm. Are you going to address these issues because you want to, as a company, to be safer, to protect your people, create that culture of safety that we hear people talk about so much and how important it is because it impacts uptime, it impacts efficiency, production, recruiting and retaining employees, all of those very, very important things. I'm not sure that's the case at Tesla. I think I think it's very different when you look at Elon Musk and everything he wants to do with Optimus and everything he wants to do with robotics in his facility. You almost get a feeling that this is more a cost of doing business or a cost of advancing the technology from a production standpoint in terms of where he wants to go because these continue to happen. I think the article also pointed out here that in most cases, you're seeing 1 in 30 employees being hit with the robotic situations like this in terms of comparable types of factories. At Tesla, it's 1 out of every 21.
Yeah.
Higher rate of frequency for these robotic accidents impacting and hurting employees. We're not changing. The culture isn't changing. You've got a leader who you wouldn't think is going to be as receptive to that because he hates unions.
Yeah.
Talks about robots all the time, wants to expand. I think in most cases, again, we're talking about what the company is going to do to fix this. I don't think Tesla's really that concerned about it, to be honest. And I think they're going to continue to happen and hopefully not to the level of harm that this individual experienced. Obviously, he was knocked out. He was laying on I don't want to paint too graphic an image here, but pretty disruptive, pretty horrible image as you can imagine for this guy. So I'm not encouraged. I'm not optimistic that these issues are going to be resolved at Tesla factories anytime soon.
Well, and I do think that when you think of Tesla and Elon Musk's vision of what an automated future looks like, I think that's why when you hear Tesla bot, you don't just think like, no, this is like a pretty standard industrial robot that's in factories everywhere, most likely. When you're talking about a company like Fanuc that has incredible market penetration for these industrial robots and is everywhere and known for safety. Like, I think that's part of the reason that this sort of stands out because there is maybe that misconception. People hear Tesla robot and they think it's Optimus, but it's not. This is just a run-of-the-mill industrial robot. And this did happen at the Fremont facility. One report did say that this worker suffered brain and spinal damage while he was servicing the robot, and he actually pinned him up against a conveyor belt. Again, it's without the details, you don't know, like, what does pin mean? Like, I mean, did it, like, push him up against it? I mean, well, yeah, it hit him hard enough to, like, knock him out.
Yeah. Like I said, getting into those dollars, I'm not trying to downplay the severity of the incident or anything like that. Just,
No. Just, adding context as to what happened, because the lawsuit does claim inadequate safety measures. And I think that in any of these industrial accidents, I think that's fair to say, right? Like, I mean, you're supposed to design these to be as safe as possible. And when these sort of incidents happen, it typically means that a shortcut was being taken, or like you said, it's a cultural problem. Nolan, when you look at this story, was it surprising to you that kind of like Tesla was called out in everything, but really, it seems like Fanuc was also named as like an equally liable party?
Yeah, I couldn't find any specific court documents to read about how the level of involvement for Fanuc, but I'm guessing it's their robot being used in a different factory. And that made me question, how much is liability shared between operator and maker?
Mm-hmm.
Like when you send a robot that you're no longer in control of to someone else, like who shares the liability? Is it more on one or the other? Do they split it down the middle?
I think it's all situational, and it is kind of it's interesting because didn't Tesla kind of use an argument where when people weren't using autopilot responsibly, that it wasn't their fault because they should have known better? But so it'd be interesting to see what kind of argument it was made. I don't know specifically the ins and outs as to like, is it straight down the middle? I mean, it could be. It all depends if it's a manufacturing defect, because depending on how the case goes, you might see the two split in terms of who's blaming who. And it'll be interesting to see if we learn more about those details.
And when they drop off the robots at the factory, do they give them the manual and say, all right, have fun? Or
that's where there's another layer to this too, besides, is it Fanuc or Fanuc?
I always say
I was also questioning that. I don't think I've ever heard it spoken.
Regardless, there's an integrator that's going to be associated with this, whether it's somebody directly from the supplier, Fanuc here, or if it's a third party that's brought in. So there's a lot of different ins and outs here. But if it just comes down to the fact that the robot malfunctioned, then I would think the supplier would definitely be part of that. But if it's also a procedural element that was overlooked or some precautions were not taken at operational level of things, that's all Tesla.
Well, and when we're talking, it is, but it's also because we've seen those cases where somebody inappropriately kind of hacked a machine so that way they don't have to lock it out. And the machine manufacturer is still on the hook a little bit because they can do that, but the company that actually created that is more liable.
Interesting.
But it'll be kind of interesting to watch this story and see what happens. But I do, anything with Tesla right now, kind of making headlines, and you really, at the end of the day, just hope that all lawsuit figures aside, like, this person gets back on their feet, can work and have a normal life again.
And how do those other Tesla employees feel?
I mean,
that's the biggest thing. With a lot of these too, again, we're beating that culture thing over the head, but that plays such a big part. There's 70,000 Tesla global employees. You got to figure 25, 30,000 of those are in facilities working on things.
Yeah.
Do you feel safe? Do you feel taken care of? Do you want to keep working here?
I've thought about that with every story that we cover that is safety related, is that, the nature of the industry is that, essentially the show must go on. Like once they figure out a safety issue with the machine, one worker goes down, you still need that machine, and another worker's kind of next in line, probably doing the same operations on the same, if not a very similar robot, because this is probably not the only one in the facility. I don't know. But yeah, that has got to be a difficult mental hurdle to overcome. Is
there a company more so than Tesla when you hear they have an accident in one of their factories, you go, yeah, okay, that makes sense? Or is there anyone more so than Tesla? We're talking about the culture bit. You're not surprised that something bad happens?
Well, I guess I'm always surprised that something bad happens, but there are some names, particularly, I would say, in the food manufacturing industry, where there have been repeated violators, where sometimes when I hear those names, I'm just like, okay, another incident there. But I think that's kind of part of the culture that Tesla has created, as it's described itself as kind of a company that's willing to, move fast and break things, But there are other companies, don't want to name them here, but when a story breaks, it's just like, oh, another incident at that facility. All right. Our most popular story. Distillery reportedly flushed 5,000 bottles of expensive whiskey. A Scottish distillery reportedly poured about $270,000 worth of Scotch whiskey into the facility's wastewater treatment system. According to the Scottish Sun, the Doers & Sons headquarters in Glasgow reportedly sent more than 5,000 bottles of its 12-year-old reserve down the drain. The spill is thought to be the result of a, quote, machinery glitch that happened while transferring the spirits to a new location in the facility. Quote, the potential revenue that has been lost is monumental and is literally floating off out to sea. That's according to an unnamed source. Doers has denied discharging any whiskey into the River Clyde. However, a spokesperson for the Scottish Environmental Protection Agency confirmed that it is investigating an incident. According to the BBC, if any whiskey did get flushed, it would still go through the same wastewater treatment process intended to purify runoff before it enters a waterway. Jeff, the Scottish Sun ran a quote from an, quote, insider who said, the machinery is so high-tech, it's mind-boggling how this has been able to happen. But if it was a true insider, wouldn't he or she know that this kind of thing happens all the time?
It can. I mean, the reality is, anytime you're looking at automation, at this point, we don't have AI programmers. We don't have agentic programming languages yet. Yeah. So this was an individual who was programming any type of automation that was involved. This stuff does happen. It's higher profile here because of the value of the product and the fact that there's some environmental concerns, which is fair. Yeah. This quantity, I guess I would have a hard time believing it would have any long-term impact on the environment. I don't think it's that much. Yeah. I mean, we see $270,000 worth of whiskey. You're thinking about a mass quantity, but this is a fast-moving river that goes into the ocean. Yeah. This is roughly the comparison about 300 barrels. Yeah. I think it can be absorbed, even if it was just dumped right in, and it didn't. It went through a wastewater treating dynamic or process. Yeah. So I think we're okay there. The bigger thing I think what this creates for these guys is now you've got an environmental agency looking at you. Mm-hmm. They're going to find something. Oh, yeah. Even if it's not in this particular incident, you're going to have a lot of attention drawn to this Dwarves facility. So that's never a great thing. Yeah. I mean, if everything's buttoned up and you're saying bring it, great. Yeah. Good for you. Not a lot of manufacturers are in that place. Even if you're doing everything you can to keep everything as clean and as safe and as up to reg as possible, they'll find something. Yeah. And when they do, it's not going to be treated the same way as it would have in the past. Yeah, we were there. We found these things. They paid the fine. They're taking corrective action. It's going to be, well, this is that Dwarves facility, that dumped $750,000 or $250,000 worth of whiskey into the water. Yeah. That's just how these things propagate. So that's why you want to move quickly, I would think, to make the Scottish environmental folks happy. Yeah. Show them that this is okay. Show them you're doing everything else. Maybe be more proactive about it and maybe bringing these folks in. Or, man, make sure it's buttoned up because you're going to be under the microscope right now.
No, you're definitely, anytime there's an incident, it doesn't matter where you are, you're going to be under a regulatory spotlight. And I mean, you're right. It is kind of a drop in the bucket, but when you hear 5,000 bottles of 12-year-old Scotch, I mean, it is, you would like to think that everybody is thinking, wow, what an environmental disaster. But everyone else is just going like, no, that's alcohol abuse. Like,
that's what Ben said in his
as Munson kind of said in the story. I think that's why so many people are just like, whew, that is. I mean, it's a bummer for the fish, but my goodness, what about the supply chain?
12-year Scotch.
Yeah. Nolan, were you surprised? I mean, I do. I laughed when I read that quote because, and Jeff, you kind of talk about when we get to a future where everything's programmed by AI, and then there's that I think like misconception that there won't be errors anymore. But it's like I think that no matter what, when you look at some of these environments, yeah, you can aspire to have the 24-hour lights out manufacturing facility, but things are always going to break down. Something will always go wrong. Something will always fail, no matter what we put into it. And I think that just has to be not an expectation, but just you need to understand that it's going to happen at some point, and you need to do your best to proactively plan from a maintenance perspective in particular to try and prevent it from happening.
Yeah, one of the thoughts I had when I read this was this something that could have been practically planned for, or did they even know something like this could happen, or were they completely surprised? Mm-hmm. And then we've done a lot of proactive versus reactive stories. So is it possible to focus on every possible thing that could go wrong, or is there a certain percentage that you need to tackle that can minimize it?
Well, we talk about this a lot, like when it comes to risk management, and we sometimes, Jeff and I have done a couple of specific podcasts on companies that this is what they do, right? Like they get a bunch of people into a room, and it's like nothing you say is too crazy to plan for. And I feel like when you're planning for something at a facility that makes whiskey, where you transfer it from one machine to another, you need to be able to plan for, like, what if there's a hole in the hose? There are probably only a few things that can go wrong to have this kind of loss in terms of transferring spirits to a different location in the facility. There are not a lot of touch points, I don't think.
Well, no, and I think all those contingencies are put in place for a bigger, quote unquote, disaster. I'm sure in their minds, Dwarves is going, well, it went through our wastewater treatment. This is why it's there.
Yeah.
This is our contingency.
Yeah.
We've addressed this, which from an operational perspective or an expertise, in terms of beverage processing, they're probably right. Mm-hmm. But that's not also dealing with the public relations dynamic that's also at play here, and having contingencies and communication plans in place for that as well.
Yeah.
Especially in this age of transparency and outrageous social media, and how quickly all this news can spread, and how potentially even this affects how people look at your brand.
Yeah.
So having plans not just to take the correct operational process and plans, but also on how to communicate those things and put people at ease.
Well, you're talking about transparency. Didn't they say, no, that didn't happen? And then the environmental agencies, we're looking at something that went on.
Yeah, they can only confirm that they are looking into an incident. The transparency is not exactly there. And there's the reality that this company is out of $270,000 worth of product that took 12 years to age. And that is going to be quite a loss, because I didn't know if it was products that were going to be bottled or if these were just 12-year-old products that were maybe being transferred so that way they could age into a more valuable, high-value product. I think that's one thing that's kind of lost in the story, is like sort of that gap that it created in the specific product line that they have. I don't know. It'll be, Nolan, to your point, it'll be interesting if they at least come out and say, all right, yeah,
that did happen.
it's gone. Or if they never say anything and people are just like, hey, we noticed that the 12-year hasn't been available in inventory for, we sold out of that.
That's strange. Yeah, weird.
Gone. We'll see what happens as we continue to follow the story. All right, before we jump into In Case You Missed It, the stories that weren't as popular on our websites, but still could make a big impact on the industry going forward, we have another word from our sponsor, Redzone. This week's episode is brought to you by Redzone. Watching employees walk away shortly after spending ample resources training them is incredibly frustrating, and while harder to spot, unengaged or unproductive employees also negatively impact the return on labor investment. A new webinar from Redzone features experts who discuss the roots of high turnover in manufacturing, how successful leaders, I'm sure they're literate, support growth from employees, for employees, methods for improving operational visibility, and how you can learn about it is by watching this webinar, How Coil Specialists Tackled Employee Reliability by, quote, leading well. So download it right now. There is a link to the video in the body copy as well as the live chat. In case you missed it, stories not as popular on our websites like IEN.com and manufacturing.net, but still stand to make a big impact on the industry going forward. Jeff, what do you have for us this week?
So picked an article, and this is a story we've been talking about a little bit here. The White House says it blocked U.S. Steel's decision to stop processing steel at an Illinois facility. So the White House said it intervened under the terms of a 3-month-old national security agreement with Japan-based Nippon Steel to block a decision to stop processing raw steel at U.S. Steel's Granite City Works plant in Illinois. So just to recap a little bit, U.S. Steel basically said, we haven't been able to process the products we need at this facility. They shut down the boiler not that long ago. We're going to keep these 800 workers on the payroll for a couple of years, but then we're going to phase it out and shut it down. Mm-hmm. Then they said, wait a minute. No. We're gonna keep it going. It's all good. Don't worry about it. The union, the Steelworkers Union, said this is because of the pressure we placed on them. We reminded them of all the commitments that they've made. Then the White House jumps in and says, well, no, it's actually because we told them they couldn't.
Yeah.
Now, just a reminder, again, this deal was made so that Nippon Steel could acquire U.S. steel. The government came on board with what they call their golden share, which basically means they've got a lot of control over operational elements of what U.S. Steel can do. Not Nippon Steel, but the U.S. Steel subsidiary. So in looking through this, and I think it's probably, the White House is probably right here. I think they probably did have this type of influence that they could step in and say, no, you're going to keep this plant open. This should be scary. This is not what we want our government to do. Private industry should have the ability to make decisions based on what is best for their company. I understand they made this deal so that it quelled a lot of security concerns over a Japanese company acquiring U.S. steel, which was ridiculous. But the deal was made regardless, and now the White House is using that in this instance, which is basically, it's weird because it puts them in bed with unions, which the Republican Party and unions getting along, that's never happened before. That's interesting. The other part is basically they're forcing this company to try to make products that the market doesn't want at a lower price. So what are we doing here? We're essentially going to hinder U.S. Steel from growing because you're forcing them to continue to keep this plant running that's not competitive. If I'm Intel, I'm real nervous right now. Remember, the U.S. government also has a 10% stake in Intel. They have voting rights. They've said they're not going to use them, but they have a 10% share. Now, that isn't a majority by any stretch. That isn't something that can influence a lot of operational or management type decisions yet. But this would make me very nervous. This also comes on the heels of President Trump targeting Microsoft executive Lisa Monaco. She's their president of global affairs. She had roles in previous administrations that were responsible for going after Trump and prosecuting him for a lot of the bad stuff that he was allegedly doing. So he's targeting her and basically revoking security clearances because he feels she's a security risk. All of these things are unprecedented in terms of how the government is getting involved with U.S. manufacturing at an influential level that is very singular, very specific, and should be alarming to anyone who believes in a capitalist economy, anyone who believes in the way that the democratic process has worked for the last 200 years. We have to be loud about this. And I know manufacturers don't want to because they don't want to be the next one that comes in the crosshairs. So it's a very difficult situation. But to me, again, manufacturing has always worked because you've got a bunch of entrepreneurs out there and a bunch of engineers who can look at a marketplace, figure out the product that's needed, make it better, do it right, and get it to consumers to stay profitable and keep people employed. The only place the government comes in there is to support in terms of for taxes, to help with training, to basically pump up these organizations, not help run and manage them. Bureaucracies don't do that very well. They need to stay out of here. This is something, whether you're whether it's NAM or any of these other organizations, we need to start coming together and speaking up here and saying how alarming this is.
Well, one thing that stood out to me with this story is also that they did come out and say that they influenced the decision, but it was at the threat of using the golden share. So it wasn't exercising the golden share's authority. It was, we will if you don't. But it is very cagey, and especially, but I understand how it can be difficult to speak up in this climate right now because of how vindictive and personal a lot of the attacks seem. And it's a very scary place. And you're right, when you're making these concessions to essentially make a good deal, you might want to think twice in terms of, who you're partnering with.
And it feels very hypocritical because this is, from a pragmatic perspective, this is not what the Republican approach is to things. This is basically an administration trying to flex, in my opinion, and say, look at everything we're doing for manufacturing. You're hurting manufacturing in this instance. My heart goes out to all 800 of those folks. They didn't do anything wrong. They did nothing wrong to deserve losing their jobs or having this factory shut down. But unfortunately, sometimes the market speaks, And this is the ramification of it. We benefit from these things as well in the longer term.
Well, and in many instances in the past when we've tried to see, it winds up just becoming a bit of a prolonged death sentence.
Right.
You know, like to your point, the market has spoken, and this has been selected out.
If you want to build manufacturing, you can't force resources to go into a dead product.
Yeah.
Let them take those funds and put them into growing U.S. manufacturing. Nippon Steel has talked about all the number of things from technological upgrades that they want to do to the U.S. Steel operating unit. This does not help that. This does not help create jobs where we need to create them. This helps us not move forward.
Yeah.
This keeps us stagnant.
Nolan, when you look at this story, I mean, do you remain hopeful that this is more than politicking, or is this something to make a headline for this news cycle and then kind of move on after things have settled in Granite City?
I think it's what Jeff said. It's a flex of power, which is on par, I believe. Did they give any reason to why they wanted to keep it open, or was it just?
Well, basically, it goes back to Nippon said we weren't going to close anything down, which they are going back. They are backtracking there. They are. But they also gave a lot of market reasons as to why, and they're also looking. And I don't remember the specifics, but basically it's a lot of the different boiler technology that they're getting rid of and investing in new stuff. But they're doing it in places like Arkansas, not Illinois. So a lot of the advancements that they want to do will create U.S. manufacturing jobs if they're allowed to move forward with their plan, in theory. But it's not for this particular products that are made at the Granite City site.
So what is the pro of forcing it to stay open? Is there one?
You're saving 800 jobs.
Well, they said they were going to keep them on for like a few more years.
A couple more years, but this is longer term. This is permanent. This is nothing in sight in terms of shutting this facility down any longer. So a lot of I forget the slabs that they were looking, the different products that they were going to need for a lot of different infrastructure type of elements. They're going to continue they're going to start remaking them, which they actually stopped making them about a year and a half ago. They're going to continue or ramp back up and do that.
So to me, it sounds like the Trump administration that promises all these manufacturing jobs doesn't want a headline that says 800 manufacturing jobs to vanish in an area, even if it's going to reappear in another.
No, this is definitely, yes, I agree that might be the case. And I think it could also this could be a good, winning a political point for something that, protections for Granite City, I think even at the Golden Share end in 2 years, right?
They transfer. They go, once President Trump's term is over, then those powers then go to the Departments of Commerce and Treasury, I believe, in terms of having influence again over job cuts, facility closures, things of that nature.
To me, this sounds a lot like the Carrier deal, where there were jobs that were going to be outsourced, and so there was a lot of bluster about saving jobs, and then we wound up saving jobs that were already okay, and then the jobs that were going away still went away to Mexico. That's what it sounds like to me at the surface, but we'll kind of see. But I mean, to your point, you want to save the 800 jobs,
and regardless, and this is just sort of this is what's in the bullseye right now in terms of we're looking at this facility. I guess where I was coming from, in addition to not agreeing with what's going on here and taking that power away from U.S. Steel or Nippon, is this sets a bad precedent in terms of getting involved with private industry. We've always prided ourselves in this country in not doing that. Yeah. Let companies run themselves as long as they don't do anything illegal, immoral, and all of those things. We try to support them. It just makes me very nervous to see government getting involved in manufacturing to this extent.
But it's actually a really sound decision, because it's like when you come out, if you come out in any way critical of the deal, you come out as anti-jobs. You come out, like, which we joke about with Anna.
Right.
Like, you come out anti-jobs, you come out anti-manufacturing. If you're saying like, maybe some red flags here, and they're like, whoa, what are you doing? What are you trying to do to those families? And
trying to let this company grow so they can create more jobs, better jobs that have staying power down the line.
Yeah.
Sucks it's not here.
Yeah.
It's going to be someplace else.
Oh, all right. Well, Nolan, what do you got for us in case you missed it? We're getting sunnier?
No. So, mine was called Edwards Vacuum laying off 128 workers in Oregon. So some key points. Edwards Vacuum is a UK-based semiconductor industry supplier, And they said they were going to lay off 128 workers at its facility in Hillsboro, Oregon. They cited changing business needs, and it will affect workers in production business unit and related support roles. It's taking place in an area called the Silicon Forest, which is in Oregon, which apparently that industrial landscape is shifting because Intel, that has some facilities in the area, said it was going to cut 2,400 jobs across its 4 Oregon campuses, 3 of which are in Hillsboro. Last year, they decided to cut 3,000 local positions. And also, that area seems to be shifting from manufacturing facilities with a lot of jobs to low-staff data centers. And a local paper, the Hillsboro Herald, cited an example of a company called SolarWorld. They had a solar cell plant, and they're transforming it into a multi-building NTT global data center. And my question for you two was, how concerned should plant workers be about this trend?
Well, I mean, I think that communities should be wary of some of these data centers that go in, and it is very, it's great because it is a lot of initial investment in the area and a lot of money that flows into the area, but that's not, it's not ongoing because there are so few employees that you would traditionally see with these deals in terms of building the community, bringing more of a tax base into the community that kind of justifies the investment that the communities typically make in some of these. But I mean, it sounds like it's definitely a transformation that's happening. And I mean, the Silicon Forest sounds like it's just becoming like a data center forest.
And I think don't require as much staffing there. So just should plant workers in general be a little like, whoa.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I guess it also depends on not knowing anything locally in terms of whether or not there's the one thing that I kind of hold on to with a lot of people currently in manufacturing is that given the incredible skills gap that we still have, there are still jobs that you can find. Unfortunately, the reality is that being able to find them nearby is, not as possible, not as likely. So your skill set will translate, but, it'll translate perhaps across country. I don't know. Jeff, when you see this, what are you thinking?
I don't think this is something that far and wide plant workers need to worry about being replaced. Their jobs are going to be replaced by data centers. No, I don't. I think the way that technology is moving in manufacturing, there's always going to be the need for qualified humans on the plant floor, without a doubt. In situations like this, it's easy you always want to look at, well, why? Why did we have to lose 128 jobs here? Why did this facility have to downsize? Why did we need to, what's going to happen now that this data center is coming in? Sometimes it is just the market telling you what's going on. It sucks, okay? And nobody likes these types of transitions. But the reality is, as we rely more on technology, artificial intelligence specifically, these data centers are a reality. The bigger issue, and not that I'm, dismissing the concerns of plant floor workers or anything like that, but it's the grid, it's the energy. That's whenever I see these data centers popping up, I'm more worried about how are we going to feed these things?
Yeah.
How are we going to supply them with the power that they need to operate so the jobs that they do create stay there and they're real and they're good jobs and these data centers function the way that they need to. That's the bigger concern for me with the data centers. I think in pockets, I get your point, Nolan, 100% in terms of how that impacts plant floor workers. But as an overall sort of industry trend, not as much.
I mean, if anything, they've proven to be a reliable thing to take over some of these old facilities that have otherwise been shuttered. And I tend to trust data centers' longevity a little bit more than remember they were turning some of these into like Bitcoin farms. The other thing to watch from an environmental perspective for me is the water that these consume, which probably makes the location a little bit more enticing just because they are very water hungry to keep them cool. How about for you? I mean, when you read this story, do you think, is this something that manufacturing workers, should be worried about or on their radar?
I guess more like in that area, if their business just is failing or if they want to relocate.
Yeah,
it might be more of a pocket than a widespread thing. But if you're in an area where these data centers are starting to pop up, do you start thinking about maybe I should start looking at new jobs, start looking at a new place to live if certain areas are converting facilities to data centers?
Yeah, you got to learn how to maintain. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of things to go down in a data center. But you're right. It's going to take fewer staff. All right. My In Case You Missed It story was a little bit different. I went with a robot. I went with a story we ran this week in our food manufacturing publication First with the headline, Meet Frasky, a new robot for Vineyard applications. And put up against your two, in case you missed it, it's a
little bit lighter.
little departure. Yeah. Let's
Good work, David.
Yeah, let's bring it out.
Who's Frasky replacing, though? Uh-oh.
Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, I'll make sure to throw to Jeff first. A team of researchers at the Italian Institute of Technology has created Frasky, a new robotic prototype that autonomously navigates and performs operations within vineyards. Here's the answer to your question, Nolan. Frasky's main goal is to address challenges that the agricultural sector is facing, like sustainability and labor shortages, all by combining robotics and AI. This could lead to a new future of even greater precision farming. For instance, Frasky's robotic hand includes a nozzle for applying selective treatments to the vineyard. I chose this story just because whenever I see a new technology being embraced by a very niche part of the agricultural or food manufacturing industry, I not only think that once it's proven how it's going to be rolled out to many other parts of the industry, but I think this is a very logical and creative solution to real world problems. You know, when we saw machine vision, machine learning being applied in academia in terms of being able to see a plant and see if it had any mold, any pests, if the pepper was ripe enough to be picked, and then the robot would pick it. This is just another sort of story along that journey. So Frasky is right now still a prototype robot, but it moves and interacts within an agricultural environment, which another thing, when you think of robotics, you don't necessarily see them rolling up and down a vineyard with ease, which has weird terrain, which has obstacles, it's in the elements. This has a robotic arm and a hand for manipulating plants and fruit. I don't know why that was the gesture. When manipulating plants and fruit. Sorry for everyone watching the video on that one. Within the arm, an integrated camera allows the system to map its surroundings and detect obstacles and specific objects, such as grape clusters, with precision. I think for a lot of people, this is everyone knows the Roomba, right? But basically, we're trying to build a Roomba for every manufacturing setting possible. And this setup is mounted to a commercially available mobile platform that's designed for outdoor navigation, has 4 motorized wheels. And I don't know, I think this is a very real world example of something that we need now, we need more of, and we might see in more and more settings. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about John Deere with the orchard robot, Gus. And I mean, I anticipate that we're going to continue to see more of these. And while it does seem like a really niche industry, like vineyard robot, I feel like that is something that could be pretty much immediately translate to anything grown on a vine, translate to anything grown on a tree, and then, go from there. Jeff, when you look at Frasky, what do you think?
Well, I'll let Nolan talk about tariffs and immigration and everything else and how that's impacting these vineyards. I'll focus on some positive stuff here.
That's right.
No, I love ag tech stories. I think this stuff is great. Anything we've talked about in the food industry where margins are so tight, so tough. It's the same thing for anybody growing it as it is selling these types of products. So anything that can help them improve their margins, I would think, in addition to just harvesting all the fruits and vegetables and going in the vineyard where you're talking about grapes. Mm-hmm. Also, a quality control effort could probably be built in here pretty quickly, pretty cost effectively to help understand where are things growing better. Okay, I picked these grapes. This was the yield in this area. What's different about the soil? Where do we go from there? Mm-hmm. There's lots of things that could lead to things within these types of robotic developments. Yeah. So I think it's very encouraging. I always love to see this stuff. The fact that it's a prototype and it's this far along as a prototype, I think is very impressive. So the way that's going to be able to scale up should be pretty cool to see down the road.
Well, and I mean, not to make light of it, but I mean, when the John Deere Gus acquisition came through, I did mention how I think we might be seeing some of these automated agricultural solutions might be expedited, ramped up, given what did they say? There were all of a sudden 1.2 million people in the workforce that disappeared overnight. Those are realities of our food supply chain that we need an answer for. So Nolan, when you look at Frasky, what are your thoughts?
Do you see the Terminator? Is this how it ends?
First, I thought of that SNL skit.
It's right there, right?
To Frasky.
To Frasky, the finest vineyard robot I've ever seen.
Are you familiar with the skit, Jeff?
Isn't that Bill Brasky?
Bill Brasky.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We actually, anytime. What I thought of initially was our salesperson that recently retired, Bill. We always referred to him as to Bill Brasky.
Exactly.
So your wife definitely has
Yep.
her impression of that skit is definitely etched in my brain.
Yep, that's it.
Oh, I like this. Yeah, I'm not gonna be a downer on it. It's fine. Anything that makes a hard job easier or helps people that don't, like farmers that don't have a lot of labor. Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
You think they're gonna feel less fulfilled because they don't have to walk up and down the vineyard all day long? Oh,
Yeah.
no, they're gonna love it.
Well, I mean, like I have a neighbor that has a pear tree, and once a year he harvests the pear tree, and he's got the satchels on, and I'm just like, "Do you enjoy this?" And he's like, "I enjoy this on one tree,
Yeah, on a tree,
one tree, and no more." And I mean, I see, I friends and family that have multiple fruit trees, and I see all the fruit on the ground. It's just like, okay, I get it. It's nice in theory, but these are very labor intensive tasks, and something that is ripe for automating.
Yeah, we see all the time about the taking away repetitive, boring stuff. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right.
That was beautiful. That was well done. But yeah, anything that takes away repetitive, mundane tasks, yeah, why not?
Yeah. All right. Well, before we get out of here this week, let's move on to our final thoughts. Nolan, what's your final thought this week?
Well, I just knocked off MLB Stadium number 25.
Oh,
I went to Seattle over the weekend.
Okay.
I think it's solidly in my tier 2 of 4.
Okay.
So I got 5 more to go. We'll keep it rolling.
Okay. Do you have one that you're saving for last?
No, I'm avoiding Oakland, whatever they're called, the Athletics, because they're gonna move, and I'm not gonna go all the way to their minor league park. Just have to go back a few years later when they eventually move to Vegas, if that stadium ever gets built. Okay. So who knows?
So what's number 1 right now? What's the best part
overall? See, I just got like them all in tiers. I don't have ranked beyond that. Like they're all tied for first, but like Pittsburgh, St. Louis, KC, Fenway, the Dodgers, the homer in me will say Cleveland too, but those are all tier 1 parks.
I was gonna say I figured the answer was easy. I figured it was gonna be Cleveland.
Well,
because that's home.
I'm not irrational.
So it's always good to go home. No, that was but I think it's a really cool idea. Trying to knock off every city, and then you get to see a significant part of the U.S. as well. Like, do you go outside of the stadium, or is it just like hotel, stadium, back home?
If it's a city I've already been to and done that for, like New York, I don't need to sightsee New York anymore. I went last year. We went to a Yankees game and to a Mets game, and we got out of there. Like I've done pretty much everything a tourist can want to do there. But like I haven't been to Seattle in a while, so ran around, did a few things.
Okay.
What about ballpark food? Is there one that stands out?
I don't seek out the ballpark.
Oh, Nolan,
so much.
Come on,
give me a hot dog and I'll be fine.
I mean, that would be just as good of a rating. Like, who has the best stadium hot dog?
I think they serve bugs in Seattle.
Yeah, that's right. Don't they do the Cricket Sunday or something?
Yeah, didn't get that.
Because I mean, the Philly Stadium. When I was in Philadelphia for work, went to a Phillies game. Great stadium, but I will always have it was like the Mike Schmidt themed sandwich.
Oh yeah,
it was incredible.
Yeah.
So if you're ever there, get that.
Just that alone is enough for me to want to go there.
Yeah.
Just like you say, a quality sandwich. I'm gonna be out the next 3 days. My final thought this week is that I had to travel to Michigan this week because my grandmother passed away. She was 92 years. She's a beautiful woman, and it was a great opportunity to say goodbye and kind of celebrate her life, and I really enjoyed that. But there were also some logistical issues there, and I just wanted to shed a light on these because as I have talked to some people in my social circles, it turns out that this is actually a large problem for a lot of people. Do you guys know how you can get to Michigan, that there's more than one way to get to Michigan? You can, instead of driving or flying, there's one other way.
The ferry?
The ferry. And did you know that on your GPS provider, typically on your smartphone, there is a feature that you must uncheck if you wish to avoid ferries.
Oh, no.
Or you must check the box to avoid ferries.
So you drove to the coast and you're like, where's the road?
Well, when you're going to Michigan, Holland, Michigan, from Madison, Wisconsin, there are 2 ways you can kind of take. You can go through Chicago, which, if you're driving at night, that's fine. Or you can go around Chicago. And so when we were leaving Holland, it routed us north. And I'm like, okay, we're going north because we're going to go up and around something, right?
It's right on the water.
I was thinking, okay, like it will just, I wasn't driving, Carrie was driving. And, I was sullen. So I wasn't exactly paying attention to the GPS. And my brother and sister-in-law who were with us, they had left a little bit earlier and called just to kind of see how things were going. And they're like, oh, well, we're still about an hour behind you. I'm like, how? You left before us? And he's like, yeah, well, our GPS routed us to the ferry.
First one on.
Look at that! Ridiculous. So it like
it's only 5 hours.
Yeah,
quick
okay.
hop.
So here's the other issue with that. Like, okay, I was like, well, let's make lemonade out of these lemons, and we'll take a family trip across the ferry, and it'll be like a lasting memory after saying goodbye to Grandma, right? The ferry wasn't even running. It wasn't even running that day. And do you know how much it costs to take the ferry with like a van and 4 people? It was like $700.
How long does it take?
It can take anywhere from 2.5 hours to 5.5 hours.
It says if you take the ferry, it's about a 5-hour trip. And if you drive, it's about a 5-hour trip. So it takes the same amount of time to get there. You just don't drive as long.
But that's routing you that way if you were to like pull up to the dock and drive on and go. But when we first looked at it, the earliest we thought we could leave at like 4:45, which was like 4 hours later than we would have been there. And just ridiculous that it would, that is the equivalent of mapping directions to Detroit in your car and it taking you to Madison Airport and telling you to get on a plane. Or like saying you're going to Chicago and it says, oh, just go to Waukegan, jump on the train and get there. Ridiculous. So as a public service to America and anyone who's going to travel to it, click the little button. You have to go into settings, not that easy to find. And kind of comically high in the settings is the button that you click to avoid ferries. Ridiculous. And so I bring this up to a couple of people at softball. And before I even start, I got like 3 words into it. I was just like, so we're heading home from Michigan. And I plug it into the GPS. And all of a sudden, Rick just goes, did it take you to the ferry? I was like, oh, man. And so anytime I've told this story, someone else has like fallen victim to this. So I just want to get the word out there and say, make sure that button is checked. Unless.
Or you can just look at the route.
Whoa. Uh-oh.
You can just look at the route.
Yeah. You could,
You never look at the route?
You could read the instructions too. No, I typically don't look at the,
You don't look at where you're going.
Well, you can't always, I guess that's what I'm getting to is like, you can't trust, I have found more and more that GPS doesn't always take you the right way.
Just putting a bow on this, David is advising everybody to look where they're going.
I think that's an oversimplification, Jeff.
Okay.
Like,
victim blaming to me.
The tools are out there and you're supposed to use them, but I understand that you're the type of person that maps it and you're just like, whoa, let's see where we're going here.
Yeah.
And I just
yeah, that's usually how I use a map. Yeah.
Well, most do.
But come on. You really do that too?
No, for maps, like a physical map.
Yeah, like a physical, if I was looking at a map, but like on GPS, you kind of just, don't you just like put it in and plot the course?
No, I look where I'm going.
I briefly
look. An anomaly here, Jeff.
I briefly look at the full route.
I will from now on,
I don't
if I'm
look
near
at
a
the
body of
specific
water.
Exits.
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you look at it's got the little line. It tells you the route you're taking.
Well,
there's a tunnel.
I guess because I know which way I'm so used to going. I'm just like, okay, the line is going to go like down and to the left. And yeah. You know what's like, this is not the first time I've been to Holland, Michigan. And this is not the first time I've used GPS to get there. And this has never happened before. Never. Like, and
that it doesn't happen again.
It will not happen again. But so again, even if you are used to checking where you're going, make sure that you have that button checked unless you would like to take a ferry, which I still look forward to doing with my family one day, if I ever can get over this.
Okay.
Have you ever taken the ferry, though?
Taking the ferry up in Door County.
Okay.
It was awesome.
Well, I heard I've heard mixed things over the one in Michigan in terms of it being like, it can be very choppy. And, for some of them, you have to like stay in your car anyways. Mm-hmm. So you're like hanging out in your car for 5.5 hours. And
that would suck.
The luxury of not driving is the one thing you have. But anyway, good on you, Jeff, for checking that map. Yeah. What's your final thought this week?
Before David punches me, I'll just be quick.
That is like, Jesus, the last thing ever.
So we had a common friend's birthday Saturday. Good time. You weren't able to play golf, but we got together and played cards afterwards. But I'm not a big golfer. Wife and I will do par threes. But one of the things I'm learning as I've gotten older is a lot of these things you just don't hold on to as well as you'd like. Yeah. And golfing has been one of those things. Like I haven't golfed on a regular golf course, but typically these once or twice a year, pull out the 7-iron, just take my time and I'm okay. Yeah. Wow. This is one of these skills that as I've gotten older has diminished much more exponentially than others. And my golf game was really, really bad. And I was really happy. The guys I was with were so cool because seriously, they're shooting, mid 80s. Yeah. And I'm well into the triple digits. So thankfully I could buy them a couple beers and we were good. But man, that is just one lesson I learned there about, need a little more practice than I have in the past, without a doubt.
Got to sharpen the spear.
Yeah.
Don't use it, you lose it.
Well, losing it more quickly now.
It does. Like it
more dramatically.
Well, and it also every year it takes a little longer to sharpen the spear. Like even with softball this year, it's something that we play regularly and a lot of. It's just like, have I always been this bad? No, it's taking me a little bit longer every year to get back to where I was.
The body goes, what are you doing?
We need a spring training.
We do need a spring training. That's on me. We need practices. Yeah. But I liked, I thought one of the people in your foursome, I thought their outlook was the best. When you were just like, hey, just told me I was getting my money's worth.
Yeah. I'm a value-added golfer, apparently. Yeah, I get my swings in.
It was a scramble, though, right?
It was a good time.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I'm not complaining. It was just an interesting observation.
No, it's when people ask me to go golfing, I'm like, is it a scramble? Because that's the only way I'm of any value. Other than like, being entertaining to people after we're on the back nine. And
I actually hit a ball backwards.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
Was it off of something?
No, I just sliced it and the wind blew a little bit and it actually went like 2 feet backwards.
Nice. That's impressive.
Oh, yeah. Defying the laws of...
Just remember that next time you're right by the hole, and be like, all right, sending this one in, and then it'll just go backwards. And you're playing right
they should be thanking you. You gave them the story.
Fair enough.
Saw a ball go backwards. All right. Well, before we get out of here, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You could also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email any of us, you can reach us at Jeff, David, or Nolan at in.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You could also reach Anna, who's out on the road at PAC Expo and should hopefully be back for the podcast next week, which will go on as scheduled, recording on Thursday and going live to most of you on Monday. So please make sure to subscribe to our daily and weekly newsletters. Subscribe to us on YouTube at IN Magazine and just give us that thumbs up on YouTube or whatever platform you use. It really helps us out a lot as we all fall into our own individual algorithms. All right. For Jeff Reinke and Nolan Beilstein, I'm David Manty. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast, and we will see you next week.